everybody. Thanks for jumping in here today and joining us again for another episode of the PCWA discussion and updates and stuff like that with the 160th Battle of Gettysburg reenactment. I'm Dustin, president of the Patriots of the Civil War Association, for those that don't know. Guys, if you can, in the comment section here, like we always do, just tell me where you're checking in from. Type your name out just in case I can't see that. Let me know where you're watching from and say hello. Also, if you guys can, please hit that share button. Let's get this thing out there. If you got some groups, reenactor groups or things like that, we're going to be answering questions today about some stuff that keeps coming up about mainstream and campaigners and things like that, and where we want to try to go, with the hobby and what we're doing with Gettysburg in an effort to kind of change the course of the way things have been going here. So real quick, we're going to jump in here, just hit the comments quick. How you doing, Ken? Thanks for jumping in. Hey, how's it going, Cody? Hey, Georgina, thanks for jumping in here. Hey, Travis, pass for the win. Yeah, I didn't see any football today. I was too busy but the Bills game's on tonight, so I'm looking forward to crushing the Packers. And there's my brother and actually he's more like my son. All right, Gavin from Chattanooga, thanks for jumping in. Appreciate it. Hey, Vanessa. Hey, Rick, thanks for jumping in. Appreciate it. There's Tom. How you doing, Tom? It's good to see you, brother. All right, so guys, today we're going to talk. Like I said, we're going to talk about some stuff that this is the big thing in the hobby. Guys seem to keep getting hung up on oh, Dustin, this is going to be just another campaigner event and this and that. Guys, that's not true. That's not what this is. And today our hope is to, we're talking with Terry Shelton today, who is the commander of Longstreet's Corps, which is by and large a mainstream reenacting group. And we're going to, and they're fully supporting this event. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and let's put some of this stuff away once and for all. So guys, again, please, if you can, share this out, hit that share button, get this out to your groups. Let's get some folks in here and let's get rocking and rolling. All right, man. I'm happy to see this. Yes, me too. We're excited. Started the hobby at 125th. That's a ways back. Mainstream and campaigners need to put aside their differences and have a great, yes, absolutely. Guys, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to pull Terry up in here and we're going to get rocking and rolling. Hey, Terry, thanks for joining us today, man. Appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, man. So let's start this thing off and talk a little bit about you. So tell me a little bit, when did you get into the hobby? How long have you been doing it, man? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I started reenacting in 1992. I started with Purcell's Battery of the Confederate Military Force. I reenacted with them about 2.5 years. But my heart was always with the infantry, since infantry on active duty in the Army. So we started Company E, 1st Kentucky Volunteers, which the 1st Kentucky was the only Kentucky regiment to serve exclusively in Virginia. And that unit's been together about 25 years now. Like most units, we're going through we got to close ranks and refill our ranks, but we became members of Longstreet's Corps in the late 1990s and have remained so ever since.
Okay. So it's safe to say that in terms of reenacting verbiage, you're a mainstream reenactor.
Yeah, I would say that.
Let's talk a little bit about what the hell it is that makes a reenactor who reenacts the Civil War a mainstream reenactor or a campaigner. What's the difference in your opinion?
Well, I think it's all about perspective and about approach. For instance, when I first started reenacting, I made a lot of my own equipment, and I researched a great deal about the First Kentucky. There wasn't a lot of information readily available, and I spent hours in the library. But um, I really think it's about the approach, the where you feel your niche is, maybe, for lack
Mhm.
of a term.
Right.
I personally have a great deal of respect for campaigners because they put a lot of time and effort into researching and to getting their uniforms back. I mean, right. And I think you see that influence because I noticed in the late 90s in the Corps, you started seeing a lot more jeans cloth uniform than you do today. And one thing that I really um, admire about the Corps is we have about 4 or 5 companies that go out and do campaigner events, and they enjoy them. And the Corps supported Maryland by Maryland.
So that's a
And
Chris Anders Rear Rank Productions event.
yeah, and I have always said, and will continue to say, that is one of the very best events I've ever attended. I really enjoyed the battle scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Things were organized, and the Corps did. We still talk about it. And those units in the Corps that support those events, um, they always come back with a lot of good feedback.
So
So yeah.
I'm curious, in your opinion, then Terry, what do you think makes that event so memorable as opposed to, let's say, like a 150th Gettysburg? Of course, that's not a great example, like a 145th Gettysburg
Well, I
or
think,
GAC.
as I said, the way the scenarios were, I never liked fighting in close. Firing 20 yards apart. And I always thought that looked hokey. And I've heard those comments among mainstreamers, we're too close. You know, and you really have to watch yourself because scenarios may call for a push. And if the other army doesn't give ground, you'll find yourself in close proximity.
Mm-hmm.
I think the scenarios, the distances that the opposing forces were in the battles, uh, it added a lot of quality. I saw the value in it.
Okay, so one of your concerns then is close proximity combat. All right, but we're going to be doing the wheat field, and that was a lot of close quarter combat.
Yeah.
And our wheat field is so close in resemblance to the real wheat field. It's just going to be so hard not to do what was done there. And what's really awesome is these homeowners, these landowners, are they grow hay out there, and it's all hay fields. But they're gonna, granted, it's not wheat, but they're still leaving that wheat field tall grass. So you guys are gonna kind of get that feeling of fighting through tall foliage, which is going to be a really cool experience. But then it's almost inevitable. It's a very small area to put thousands of people, and you're going to get very close and intimately personal with the people you're aiming at.
Well, I will give you. Yeah, and I wanna back up a little bit and say this. If the scenario calls for that, that's one thing. If historically the two forces did come in close quarters, then that's fine. That's the way it should be. I remember in the cornfield at Maryland, Maryland, my company, I was a company commander then. We were sent in to basically recon the cornfield, and we paused and we used hand signals for everybody to kneel down. And I just happened to look above the corn, and 2 feet away from me was Old Glory. I mean, literally, I could have reached through the corn and touched the other side. Uh, if a scenario calls for close quarters, then yeah, by all means, we want to reenact the battles in those scenarios as realistic as possible.
Right. So it does start to look a little hokey when you see guys aiming their muskets pretty much straight up in the air, but you can't level a musket in somebody's face on the battlefield. You can't do it. It's a safety hazard. You're going to burn someone's face off. A lot of people don't realize, and reenactors do, but from a spectator's perspective, these guys are watching us, and we're out there in the field with these guns like straight up in the air. They're like, "Well, that looks silly." It's better that, and you're still getting the sounds, you're still getting the smoke, you're still getting that visual, but we're not burning somebody's face off because powder does fly out of the end of them barrels.
Well, it's all falls on the shoulders of the commanders, the company commanders, the NCOs. Number one, if the scenario doesn't call for close quarters, then it's up to the commanders on both sides to avoid that. Now, if it does happen, because it's just the way it unfolds or whatever, then
Mhm.
certainly you elevate. You don't want to hurt someone.
That's right.
But again, it goes back on the decisions and the maneuvers of the company commanders and the battalion commanders.
Right. And then again, this is another reason why we aren't fixing bayonets and fixing bayonets and going hand-to-hand combat. We do have some scenarios planned where there will be some hand-to-hand combat in the wheat field, and that's going to be very carefully orchestrated. This is, but what an experience for the guys who never really had an opportunity to do that.
Right.
You're going to get this chance.
Right. But see, that's planned. And that way the commanders can work together to make sure it comes off like it should and it doesn't get out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
But too many times you see those things erupt during a scenario that weren't planned, i.e., somebody running up and grabbing a flag belonging to another organization, which is a strict no-no unless it's agreed to and planned.
Exactly. Like Jeffords and the 4th Michigan. You see, that's going to happen. We're going to do that. That's a planned scenario.
Yeah.
And there is going to be a bayonet running him through, but that's going to be preordained, pre-established, and it's going to be a very cool visual, but it's all going to be scripted and played out in a safe manner. So, that's the key here. And what's big on it, and look, what's big on like I put this on you guys. You guys are the commanders, so I'm pretty much staying out of that. I'm more into the planning and logistics of the event. But for Scott Fink and Chris Anders, Mike Lavis, and you and Tom Truitt, you guys are going to be really in charge of everything that's happening out there. So you guys are going to be coordinating all that kind of stuff, and that's why I just rely on you. And we're talking about years and years and years of combined experience in reenacting, so I have every confidence that it'll be a great show and a great time for you guys.
Well, we look forward to it. We think it will as well.
So let's talk a little bit about, okay, I know you're hearing this. I know you're hearing a lot of, hey, oh, well, the PCWA is just they're just making it another hardcore campaigner event. So your presence here is evidence to the contrary. But what do you say to these guys? When they're coming at you with this campaigner, mumbo jumbo.
Well, I mean, first off, if an organization chooses to attend an event, they also submit to that event's guidelines and regulations. Now, in this particular case, as with actually Maryland, there are both sides, or I call them approaches to reenact. The fact that the mainstream organizations will set up camp as we normally do.
Hmm.
They will be mixed camps. And they will have guidelines with. I think, really and truthfully, And it certainly, that in itself uh, would make it not a hardcore event because of those particular allowances. But the way I see it, I don't see it as a mainstream event. I don't see it as a hardcore event. I see it with an event that includes both approaches and where people agree to the guidelines. And I think, really and truthfully, uh, it may not be a good idea to use terms mainstreamers and hardcores. It may uh, um, cause a lot of people second thoughts about coming. It's a reenactment with rules that includes both approaches and includes guidelines that we expect will be enforced. So I think that's a productive way to look at it.
That's exactly the way that we have been preaching this event from the word go. As a guy who's been in the reenacting community since I was 14 years old, I came into it on the mainstream side of the hobby, and really wasn't introduced to the campaigner side of the hobby until way later. And what needs to be understood is, and look, some of the authentic guys are so great. I mean, these guys, they put in a ton of effort. They've a ton of research, so knowledgeable, and I respect that. And then they're also willing to put that information and stuff that they know out there for other people to improve themselves, and they're willing to help. Now, I've seen that a couple of posts, like the mainstream, or the some Civil War reenactor groups and stuff like that on Facebook, and there are guys out there who are hardcore campaigners. I mean, these guys won't do it unless it is absolutely 110% authentic and perfect, as close as you could possibly get it without actually using real stuff. And I'm going to name drop here. Tom Loopold. This guy's he's part of the LR, and he's very knowledgeable, super smart guy. Really cares about the hobby, but he's also great at helping other people. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of respect for that. And there are other guys too, but you get the few who are like, well, I'm just going to break down these people and make them feel like complete idiots. And I don't see the benefit in that. Keeping in mind, I had no clue that there was another faction of reenacting that was being done. Now, my question is why in the hell does it have to be separate from each other? And I answer this, okay, really quick. And I want to hear your side of this too. But okay, on one side of this coin, I get it. I mean, you're talking about guys who spend a lot more money on a hand-stitched, hand-sewn jacket that is just right on. You might pay $600-700 for that, whereas you get these, Pakistani bought sack coats that just, the wrong material, the wrong stitching, the wrong buttons, the wrong anything. And it's frustrating for somebody who's like, you're trying to do this. You're trying to reenact the Civil War. You're reenacting the Civil War. What was done, and you and I talked about this, the scripts are already written. Okay. The pages of history, they are already written. So why argue against trying to do it as good as possible? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, it doesn't in the end, but you have to go through several layers of understanding and conversation to get to the end. Number one, I can fully understand people who go out and research and make sure that their uniform is absolutely as authentic as they can make it. Now, I understand that level of devotion and dedication. I think but see, those, just like with mainstream and with both sides of reenacted, there tends, because people do things a certain way, they tend to bond together. And then in some guy's mind, hey, I go through all this money and all this devotion to research And then I show up at the event with some people who don't, perhaps. I can understand that would be a layer of frustration, and I'm not going to deny that doesn't come to a conclusion. That thought process. However, I think when with mainstream, you can set up a garrison camp, and you can set it up per regulation.
Exactly.
You can run it as a military camp. Now there may be civilians there, but they're actually a backdrop. They're there because that's the way those folks choose to reenact. But it doesn't mean you can't have a military garrison camp with an appearance and the way it's run. And I've always um, uh, thought about reenactments with both perspectives there. You have a garrison camp. Yeah, the garrison camp well, it wasn't there during the Gettysburg campaign, but at the same time, the viewing public can come in. They can see how the Army was on campaign, and they can see how the Army was when it was in garrison camp. So there's still a level of education there.
That's the key. And that's my entire point here. All right, we have to educate people on the Civil War. Gettysburg is a campaign event. I mean, in terms of and when I say event, I mean not my reenactment. I'm talking about the event itself. It happened. They were on campaign when they rolled into Gettysburg. They didn't roll in there heavy. They didn't roll in there with all kinds of tents and things. And these guys came in with their bedrolls and their rations and their haversacks, and I mean they rolled right into fighting these guys, and they died rolling right in off the march. So, but going forward, when you're spending a lot of time, modern people are very used to their modern amenities, and we get that. There's a part of you that has to start kind of letting go of that. If you really want to take this seriously, you've got to let go of that mindset that this is 2022 or 2023 when it happens, and you have to put yourself in that 1860s mindset. But in doing so, you can still have the things that make you comfortable out here if that's what you need, but the public doesn't have to see it. And it can still be a situation where we're training people, we're educating people as accurately as possible. And the way to do that, and in my opinion, the way to do that, pardon me, is by using signage and putting up literature so people can see that, hey, oh wow, look, I mean this huge encampment, oh, this wasn't at Gettysburg. You can literally put that in bold letters. Garrison encampment would not have been seen at Gettysburg. However, this is something you might have seen at Vicksburg, Petersburg, or any long-term siege type situation, or anything where people are Washington garrison, things of that nature. So there are opportunities to educate the public. That's our sole purpose here at the PCWA, is to provide an atmosphere that, one, we're creating something that is different than what any reenactor has gone to before. Now, the reenacting is reenacting. I mean, there's only so much you can do, and it really does come down to what the reenactors themselves are willing to do and put into the event themselves. I can only produce and provide you, basically on a silver platter, the event space and the quality, leadership and things of that nature. But really what it comes down to is what you are willing to put into it. How serious you're willing to get to make it that good. But we're going to put you in a situation where you're going to be doing scenarios that are very well planned out and coordinated. Like you said, we're going to probably end up using radios. Nobody will ever see them, but things will be coordinated in a way that it happens the way the battle took place, as closely as we can do that, with what we have to deal with. But we want to create that atmosphere. We want to give you guys like the most immersive experience that we can. And this is where I've been trying to hammer this home. I don't care about this campaigner thing. I don't care about this mainstreamer thing. I care about the fact that we're having a Civil War reenactment that has a little bit higher standard than what you see at most mainstream events. Or how about we just call them large powder burner events? You can have a large powder burner event where you're talking about, you have to meet this standard. You have to look a certain way. And I have to give my hat goes off to the so many reenactors who have been in touch with me, raising battalions of guys, and they put their uniform standards out, and they have guys signing up, registering with us every single day. It's really mind blowing. So my hat goes off to you guys, and the work that you're putting in to make this thing a success. I mean, so really, I couldn't do it without you guys, and that goes for you as well, Terry, and your organization. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about, with so much hype, and people talking so much about this just being, another campaigner event, why maybe we did touch on this a little bit, but why does Longstreet's Corps feel like, even though that's the thing, that this is still a good event for you guys to participate in?
Well, we had a meeting at Cedar Creek on Saturday evening. I met with the company commanders, with the artillery and cavalry, as well as infantry, and we talked about it. Because, normally our annual meeting is in January. And there are times we will make earlier decisions. Now, the Corps does not add events once our schedule is in place. Historically, we just don't do that. So I felt like it was important for us to commit to the event that we had, wanted to attend. And some of the comments that I got was, well, it's new. It's supposed to be going in a different direction. If we go Daniel Ladies, we know what we're going to get. The Corps went 1 year as a Corps. So we know what to expect there. But this event is placed with, and you have to realize, mainstreamers love reenacting as much as anybody. And we don't mind, as in the case of Maryland, my Maryland, in the case where some of our companies attend more progressive type events. We don't run away and hide because the guidelines are going to be stricter or a little different. The overwhelming feeling of the Corps was, hey, this is new. It's different. Let's try it.
Exactly.
And I laid the guidelines on the line. I said, no, this is what we can expect. And if we go, this is what we're going to adhere to.
Right.
And the Corps accepted that, and it was unanimous. Now, you have to realize that Brandy Station is happening the first week of June.
Big Cav event. Yep.
Big Cav event. And I committed to my Cav that I would support them in those efforts. However, we had some artillery commit to Daniel Ladies before this event was announced.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? I've got batteries that said, okay, we'll go to both events. So they're going to do Daniel Ladies, and they're going to stay over, and they're going to do Acts of Valor. Cavalry is we're going to muster everybody we can. And the Confederate Cav commander is a member of Longstreet's Corps Cav. That's the Black Horse Cavalry. I mean, the War Horse Cavalry is Longstreet's cavalry.
That's Tom Truitt, right?
He's the commander, but you're the commander of the event, Stephen Dunn, right?
Steve Dunn. Yeah, he's commanding at the event. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's a member of War Horse Cavalry,
Mm.
which is our cavalry. But we're proud he gets to do it. Tom supports him in doing it. And we're going to muster everybody, all the infantry committed to coming to Axabal.
That's great.
But we're going to have most of our guns there, and we're going to have a great deal of artillery there.
Your phone's ringing.
No, that was a child abduction morning.
Oh, that's not good.
No. So at any rate, so the Corps, we had a good meeting. And I expect to see the vast majority of the Corps at the Acts of Valor.
That's exciting, and I'm very happy to hear that. And believe me, we're excited to have you guys. Really quick, we're halfway through the show here, guys, already. Really fast, if you guys are just joining us, please hit that share button, guys. Let's get this out to your groups and to other reenactors. We're putting out a lot of good information here. I want to go ahead and answer a couple of quick questions. Guys, if you have questions for myself or for Terry or for anybody else for that matter, just put them up here in the comment section and we will answer them. So, Rick, is it best to register here soon? If to get in at the $15 rate, you want to register before January 1st. You have all the way up until January to get in at the $15 rate. We made a nice long pre-registration period to keep it as cost effective for you guys as possible. Then it will go up in January. And again, that's only up to $20. Most events you go to, you're paying more than that, I think, to get into an event. We've kept our prices very fair going across the board. Our registration numbers, I haven't tallied that up entirely. I had it pretty close to 500. I think I overshot it a little bit, but it's getting up there, and we're registering guys every single day. And it just keeps coming in. So I can put some numbers out there. Once we compile them, we have to print out the whole spreadsheet and do that. But we need to do that anyway, because we're going to start getting that stuff over to the respective commanders and things of that nature. And really quick, one of the other things that I want to touch base on, I as you know, in this hobby, Terry, you could probably vouch for this. You were very intricate, the word I'm trying to use. You were very important to the planning of the what was the 150th BGA? Was that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that rumor mill gets fired up, and people start spreading stuff that just isn't true. Where the heck it comes from, I don't know. But I've said this before. If y'all didn't hear it from me on our show or somewhere else on our pages, just ignore it. It's just not true. And one of the things that keep coming up is, Dustin, we heard that you are not accepting any more artillery because you've maxed out your gun registrations. That's just completely false. There is no limit on how many guns. What limits there are set is the first 16 guns that register get a $250 bounty. And there's still slots. There are still slots on both sides, federal and Confederate. That's not the first 16 guns total. First 16 guns per side that register will get a $250 bounty. The other thing is, I was asked, are you providing hay for horses, things of that nature? Yes, hay is going to be provided, and it's going to be very fresh because it's coming right from the farm that we're at. Those guys produce hay, and it's very good, Timothy, and so you'll have with it. But if we can't provide you with what you feed your horses with, or if you're very particular about that, then I highly suggest you bring your own stuff to feed your horses. But we will provide that. We also provide you water. And we're also, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but look, people have asked, are you paying for mounted guns and things of that nature? I will provide a $400 bounty if you bring a mounted gun or a fully mounted gun. Okay. Operational horse crew, the whole 9 yards, bring a case on. I'll provide $400 for every gun that's mounted. All right. If you bring a wagon, all right, if you're going to bring a wagon with an entire team to pull the wagon, I will give you a $400 bounty. And because it's expensive to haul that stuff here, it's expensive to bring the horses and all that stuff. It's a lot of fuel. So I will provide you with that. So please, I encourage you, if you're interested in coming, reach out to me or somebody on my staff, and we'll get you guys squared away on that. Now, the other thing, we have a work weekend coming up. All right. The work weekend is November 11th, 12th, and 13th. We're going to stay out there. We're camping. We're going to freeze our butts off in the middle of the night. We're taking kerosene heaters out there. I encourage you guys, if anybody wants to come and help us, we definitely could use it. Please come out, bring a tent. We're camping in our Civil War tents, but we're not dressing. We're not putting Civil War clothing on. We're just going to camp in our tents, and we're going to have fires and things of that nature. And we can drink and have some beverages and have some food over the fire and things of that nature, and just have a good time hanging out and getting some work done at the site. So please, guys, if you're able to, head over to thepcwa.org and sign up over there as a volunteer, so that way we can ensure that you're covered under our insurance policy when you come out. And we at the day of the work weekend, we will have you sign a waiver releasing the PCWA and landowners of any liability. So we're going to get that taken care of. I'm going to jump over here and check out the comments, but we'll get back to it here. So the 72nd will do its best effort as well to put on a good show too. Hey, the 72nd, my hat's off to you guys, because Jason, you're doing such a great job over there, getting guys in and getting them all registered. So very much respect. Hey, Carmen, it's good to see you. Harry, it's good to see you, my friend. I believe Riley's battery is already one of the first 16 guns registered, but I would sure like to see a list posted to be sure. Okay, I will get right on that. So keep your eyes on the 160th Battle of Gettysburg reenactment group page on Facebook, and we'll post the updates there. Also, I was notified that earlier today I posted a video about signing up as a volunteer, and I don't know that there's a link there for it. We are supposed to, but I don't know that it's there yet. So if that's the case, just hang tough, and I will put it out there as soon as Jim gets that link live and ready to rock and roll. So thank you guys so much for your patience, and we do appreciate it. One more thing, we are going to be at the event site for the entire weekend at Remembrance Day. So if you come into town Friday or something, and you would like to come out to the site, the landowners are extending an invitation for everybody and anybody who wants to come out and take a look at the site. Please do that. We'll be out there. Somebody will always be out there at the site to give you guys a personal tour. We'll take you out around and let you guys get your eyes on the land itself. Trust me, guys, you want to do this. I promise you want to do this. This is a great opportunity. You're going to be in town anyway. It's right down the street. You're not going far. And you just won't believe your eyes until you actually set foot out there. I know a lot of y'all seen my videos, but it just doesn't do it justice. So that being said, all right, Terry. So tell me, what excites you about this? This new approach that we're trying to take. And working directly beside progressive reenactors and mainstream. What do you think is the best that can come out of this, and where do you personally see the hobby going from where it's been?
Well, Dustin, I don't know if it's a new approach, but what I do see is it's an approach that plans to sustain that approach. The BGA, we had a very large contingent of campaigners and progressives at the 150th Gettysburg.
Sure.
And we worked well together. What I see is this approach needs to be sustained in order to not every reenactment has to be a huge gathering of legions, if you will, but Gettysburg or some of the other major battles needs to have a good quantity of reenactors in order to really make it look like or represent would be a better term, Gettysburg. You know, you can't have pickets charged with 20 people.
Can't do it.
You can, but it's not going to look very good.
We have seen it done. We have seen it.
Yes, we have. Well, I wasn't there. But
I saw it. I wasn't a participant. I paid to get in that event to be a spectator. And I think I paid like $40 to get in too. I'm like, wow, how can people bring their families to an event like this where they're gouging you? That was one of the biggest things I think it frustrated me about the old GAC was it's like this commercial enterprise of just raking in as much money as possible. I mean, we set prices so fair. Like our sutlers, where our sutler fees are ridiculously low for a huge Gettysburg event. I could charge upwards of $500 for big tents. It's the same across the board for everybody. It's all done by size. So fair. Same thing with food vendors and things like that. So, I mean, we want everybody to come out here and really benefit from this and it not to look like a clown show to, a 3-ring circus. And, of course you got to have the funnel cakes. I mean, progressives would not like it if you didn't have funnel cakes.
I don't eat funnel cakes, but I will say this. An event like this that has standards that are elevated, and you and I discussed a lot of events have good standards, they just don't enforce them. But to have an event that has standards that are enforced, I think what the potential is there to do is to attract the very best of both sides.
Exactly.
And because people are going to, there's a lot of mixtures in mainstream. There's some that, and I don't want to put down any reenactor, but there's some that standards are not as high as other standards in mainstream. But I want, my pet peeve is I don't like cars in camp. I don't like cars near camp because, you're sitting around the fire with your units and you're talking, you're in a period mode, and all of a sudden you get blinded with car lights. I just don't like that. So there's varying degrees, even among mainstream, in the approach to reenacting. We had a company in the Corps would not allow civilians on their company street.
Oh.
And we have a company in the Corps that does primarily campaign events, but they always come to the Corps events. So there's varying degrees, but this has the opportunity to attract those willing to adhere to the guidelines, and you can get the very best of both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's going to benefit the hobby. It's going to benefit people like me who are new to I'm talking about back in the day when I was new to the hobby. I didn't know this site existed. And I have to be honest with you. When I saw a large group of these like Liberty Rifles guys doing like we'll just use the 1st Minnesota. When these guys did that 1st Minnesota on the actual battlefield, on the actual site, how impressive was that to see 262, the actual number of guys. And they looked spectacular because they put the effort into it. They cared about how they appeared to the public. And when they came off the field, they came off the field with the appropriate amount of people. That is absolutely impressive. And what better way to visualize and see, what happened essentially without the blood and guts, of course, and the death and gore. But how educational is that? And we can reproduce that. It doesn't matter what side of the hobby you're on. Okay, right now your uniform might not be perfect. Okay. But you see these guys and it inspires you. And that's what we want. I want to inspire people, not just reenactors, but I want to inspire people sitting on the sidelines watching this and say, good Lord, one, that looks like a lot of fun. And we're reenacting a war. We're reenacting something that was horrible and terrific and just rip the country to shreds. But, in today's world, we do this and we want kids, the younger generation, to put down their cell phones and actually get involved and engage and keep carrying the torch. And if we're tearing each other apart in this hobby, it's never going to happen. The buck stops here if that's the way we approach this. And I believe, me personally, and maybe I'm a little bit of a hopeless romantic in this department, but I believe in these guys. I believe in the Civil War reenactors. I believe in these guys who put everything they've put into it. And I even the mainstream, I hate these terms, but this is how we recognize them. Both sides of this hobby, okay, have a place. Okay, one is doing it at a different level. The other is doing it, but even inside. And the comment was made earlier. And I'll put this back up. And I did miss this comment. I apologize. Wars will be putting in its best effort for a good showing for this event. We are looking forward to it. Thank you. I apologize for missing that. But this comment: there are levels of mainstream and there are levels of campaigner. There are, even inside of each side, each faction, there's a different level. You know what I mean? What has to stop happening is people have to stop pulling out the measuring tape. You see what I'm saying? And you know, we're measuring the size of each other's, you know, goodies. It doesn't matter that, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, what matters is, okay, that there are people doing this and carrying the torch and bringing remembrance, okay, and honor to the people who actually did die out here and fought for something that they believed in, and it cost them their lives. So, I mean, the least that we can do is strive to be better. And I don't think we're asking too much when we do that. So listen, I've heard nothing but accolades from several different people, you know, from the progressive side or whatever, that talk very highly of you and Longstreet's Corp. So you guys have a great reputation in the hobby, and that's a good thing, especially coming from the mainstream side of things. You know, so that's something you should be proud of.
I appreciate I thank people for saying that and recognizing that. But you know, a reputation is something you have to work at continuously. If you did well today and tomorrow you screw up, then that's something you have to work at. And like at Cedar Creek, we had at least 30 brand new members. The recruits are out there for both sides, and they will come. You just got to reach out to them. But I've worked with Chris Anders before. I've worked with Dick Waters, and several members of the Corps are in Liberty Rifles. I have a great deal of respect for those folks. Now, we being a lot of mainstreamers, may not get to that level of uniform. I'll tell you a quick funny story. When I was elected Commander Longstreet's Corps, I said, you know, I need to have a jeans cloth frock. I need that. And my research indicated Longstreet wore cadet gray, as did a lot of the generals in the Army in Northern Virginia. So I contacted Ben Tart. I said, hey, I want a cadet gray jeans cloth, you know, and I was naive. And he said, well, let's talk about that a little bit. And I told him about my affiliation with Kentucky. And he said, well, you know, a lot of those guys were very affluent people. They bought real wool. And that's what they made their cadet gray frocks out of. So I didn't expect that answer, but it was very interesting. But no, I will work with any reenactor, and I will do my best to make sure that the Corps prides itself, and they will pride themselves on doing the very best that we can do.
And I have no doubt about it whatsoever. And I'm seriously looking forward to having you out there. And guys, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to other folks that maybe don't even know that this is happening or haven't heard about it yet, which I'd find it hard to believe at this point. But we need you spreading the word. You know, we need you guys helping us put in an effort to get other people to join in on this. Again, Gettysburg was fought by thousands and thousands of people. The more numbers we have, the more accurate the scenario will be. We are pushing for 200-man battalions. If we don't make that mark, it's not a big deal. I mean, don't feel like, oh God, these guys are, we're not going to make it, so we're quitting. I've had people, well, one person do that, and I just feel like, I just feel like we're pushing people away when we quit. We throw in the towel and just say, well, we're not doing it. We're not, well, I couldn't get the 200 and I'm just quitting. And now and this confused a lot of people. They're like, wait, so what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to fall in with? Don't fall into that, guys. Okay. There's other people, there's other units who you can fall in with if somebody decides not to show up. So don't quit because they do. If you have any questions or anything about that kind of stuff, please, by all means, reach out to me, reach out to Mike Lavis, reach out to Chris Anders, reach out to Terry Shelton. You reach out to anybody and they'll set you straight and we'll get you put where you need to go. Billy, I will reach out to you about this off the air. We'll talk about this a little bit. So, Terry, thank you so much, man, for taking the time here today. I do sincerely appreciate it. Before we take off here, I'd love to pick your brain. What do you think the PCWA, my organization, what do you think we're doing well? And what do you think we could be maybe doing a little bit better?
Well, that's a course opinion.
Sure.
I like the approach. I really do. To develop a following, and sustain that following. Like I said, this event is not a campaign event. It's not a mainstream event. It's an event that has guidelines that we expect to be enforced. And I would concentrate on it from that stance. I really would. Like I said, the more you use the term mainstreamer or you use the term campaigner, the more people hear those terms, and it could galvanize people, to one or the other. I personally look at it as an event, like I said, elevated guidelines and rules and standards. And I think it'd be good for reenacting in general, as well as both sides to work together.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to keep pushing. And listen, I know people join this show, and some folks have actually said, Dustin, every show you're talking about standards, kind of getting boring. I get that. But there's a reason for it. And there's a reason that we touched on it here today, because it is important that we care about these things because of what we're here to do in the first place. Otherwise, why are we doing this? I mean, it seems like such a waste if we're just coming out to hang out and drink and get drunk and act like a bunch of fools and, not really care about the whole history aspect of it. That's not what this organization is about. We do care. We genuinely want to see this to be an amazing immersive event. But when I say immersion, that doesn't mean that you can't bring your tent. That doesn't mean you can't bring whatever you want to bring with you and set up in your garrison. And it doesn't mean that. It just means that when you come out there, I want you guys having an experience that you're like seeing the elephant. Like, remember we used to say that when we're, back in the day when we were out in the field, oh my God, I saw the elephant today. And I can only tell you maybe one or two different times where I saw the elephant. And one of those times was, Pickett's charge. I think it was the BGA, 15,000 or I don't know how many it was, but there was thousands upon thousands of Confederates coming across the field towards us. And it was awe-inspiring. The most incredible thing I've ever seen. We want to do that for the next generation of reenactor. And let's be honest, the hobby's aging. A lot of guys are aging out. I'm not a spring chicken. I'm 43 years old and I'm not getting any younger. And again, there's guys who are 50, 60 that are still doing this. And if it wasn't for those guys doing this, there'd be nobody putting on the uniform anymore. But again, I could be wrong. I do feel like there are people starting to kind of come back into the hobby. But that's why we have to do a great job at this event and events going forward. Like, is that Terry Shelton? Yes, it is Terry Shelton. It is the Terry Shelton, the one and the only, has come here. But I don't know who you are, so Terry doesn't know who you are either. That is a Facebook user. So if you can tell me what your name is. Coming together for a better impression and a better recreation of the battle. Yes, thank you. That's what we're trying to do. Guys, thank you all so much for being here. I do sincerely appreciate it. Guys, if you can't, a camp streamer, a camp streamer event, I don't know what the hell that means, but that's funny. Thanks all for being here. Please share this video out, guys. And again, stay tuned. We will be back with more updates and things of that nature. Please go to thepcwa.org and register today. And that's spectators can also get your advance tickets on that website and register by January 1st to get that, lock in that $15 rate for reenactors. It is a super low price. And again, I wouldn't charge you guys anything if it didn't, if we could pay for it out of our pocket, I would do that. But unfortunately, that is not the way it works right now. So I'd appreciate if y'all share this out, get this video out there to your groups and things of that nature. If you have any questions or need anything from me, by all means, please reach out to me anytime. I am not driving truck anymore. So I do sleep normal hours. I'm sleeping from like, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night till like 4 or 5 in the morning. So just keep that in mind. All right. So, and a lot of kids that grew up with Terry Shelton have grown up and still reenacting, like myself, Brent Reich. Reich? Did I say that? Do you know that gentleman, Terry?
Who's that?
Brent, is it Reich?
Yeah, Rich. It's actually pronounced Rich.
Is it Rich? Because it looks like Reich.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brent.
He's a great reenactor. His dad was a very good reenactor too.
Outstanding. Well, I hope to see you come out. All right, guys, we're going to call it a day. Thank you all so much for being here. Please follow us on Facebook and go head over to TikTok. We do have a new TikTok. We post videos at 2 or 3 a week, I believe. So follow us over there. And again, our website is thepcwa.org. Pay attention to that. We do update it regularly. So we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Take care.